No temas. No tengas miedo. Esas palabras de Dios en nuestro evangelio de hoy están muy difíciles para vivir en nuestro mundo ahora. Es difícil para vivir una vida sin miedo, porque hay muchas cosas contra el cuerpo de Dios. Entonces, para nosotros, cuando escuchamos no temas, es difícil para obedecer. Para mí es muy interesante que los 3 lecturas de este fin de semana, hay gente en los 3 that were called by God. Nuestra primera lectura de Isaías. Isaiah was called by God, and yet he said, I can't do this. I don't have the right tongue. To which the Lord said, that's fine. I will hear you. I will bless your tongue. And Isaiah says, okay, fine, Lord. I will be here. I volunteer. En nuestra segunda lectura de San Pablo a los Corintios, escuchamos la miedo de San Pablo, because he persecuted the Jews, and yet he too was forgiven by God. He became one of the great apostles. In fact, in his mind, he was the greatest apostle, but only because of the grace and mercy of God. Y últimamente escuchamos en nuestro evangelio de Simón Pedro, who had fear because he was a sinner. And the Lord said to him, be not afraid, for you will be a fisher of men. Nosotros, como cristianos católicos, en nuestro bautismo recibimos la gracia de Dios para vivir diferente y contra la mente de nuestro mundo. When we were sealed with the sign of the cross at our baptisms, we were claimed by Christ. And we were sent forth as priests, prophets, and kings to obey the will of God, to do the work of God, to be not afraid. And yet many times we are afraid. We don't think that we are blessed by God. We don't think that we will have the abilities and the grace and the ability to go and sin no more. And yet God continues to call us to do that. You know, every year we have our Archdiocesan Catholic Appeal. And in that appeal, we forget that many times the largest line item financially for the diocese is the education of seminarians. Y cuesta más que, I'm going to do it in English this time because I messed it up last year, más que $50,000 per year per seminarian for education. Y normalmente 8 a 10 años para el seminario por cada sacerdote. Entonces, en total, más que $400,000 for education for every man that goes through seminary all the way through and becomes a priest. Gracias a Dios que hay mucha gente en nuestra arquidiócesis que ayúdanos, porque para mí es imposible para pagar ese dinero por mi educación, porque no tengo dinero. Believe it or not, priests are not paid very well. Es una sorpresa. No, it's obvio. And we shouldn't be paid a lot because we aren't in this for the money. We are in this, as it says, to smell like our sheep. And so typically, we are paid at the poverty level. So I have no problem saying how much we aren't paid. We are paid before taxes about $24,000 a year. Not much. And yet, we have the ability and the blessings to give back from everything we've received. And you know, every year until this year, I've been able to preach the same way when I talk about the Archdiocesan Catholic Appeal, because typically the request for our parish is about $50,000 a year, which is basically the diocese saying, hey, if you're not going to give us one of your members to become a priest, at least pay for your next priest education this year. And I've been able to say that every year until this year. Why? Well, because as of this last Monday, tenemos una seminarista de nuestra parroquia. Gracias a Dios. We have a seminarian as of Monday from our diocese, from our parish. Colton Estes, one of our seniors, will be going off to seminary in the fall. So please pray for him. Because tomes entre 8 y 11 años para preparar para una vida de un sacerdote. I keep trying to remind him, it's like, you don't worry about things yet. Just get into seminary. And yet, even though we have a seminarian, gracias a Dios, we still have the responsibility to be part of the body of the Archdiocese, to be part of the body of Christ. You know, it's interesting talking with Colton and talking with myself about my own vocation story. It's very similar to what we hear of from Isaiah, Paul, and Peter in our readings this weekend. ¿Por qué yo? ¿Por qué me? I don't have the gifts. I don't have the talents. I don't have the skills. Soy un pecador. ¿Por qué me? And yet Christ says the same thing to each and every one of us. No temas. Be not afraid. Porque con la ayuda de Dios todo es posible. You know, many times we think, well, God hasn't given me the gifts and talents and skills to be able to be a good disciple. Es una mentira. Somos discípulos porque hemos recibido el sacramento de bautismo. That's our qualification. Now, what are you going to do about it? How are we going to live out our baptisms? Es nuestra responsabilidad para vivir nuestra fe, no para hablar sobre nuestra fe solo. Porque si solo hablamos sobre nuestra fe y no vivimos nuestra fe, somos hipócritas. Y es nuestro problema ahora en nuestro mundo. Que demasiada gente hablando sobre la fe, pero no viviendo la fe. Porque es muy difícil para vivir nuestra fe. In a world that denies that we even need God, it is hard for us to be faithful. And yet, hay esperanza en la cruz de Cristo. Hay esperanza en el amor y la gracia y la misericordia de Dios. Si creemos, podamos vivir nuestra fe. Poco a poco más, cada día. You know, many times we forget in the Gospels that Jesus did not call, God did not call those that were deemed qualified by earthly standards. No. What did he do? He gave to those that he deemed as qualified those gifts and talents and skills. He qualified those that he chose. He didn't choose those who were qualified. And yet we think, well, God can't use me in that way. The reason I tell you time and time again that I suck at life and that I'm a sinner isn't just to say, hey, look at me. It's to say, have faith in yourself. If I can do what I do, you guys should have it easy. Porque somos pecadores, pero no somos nuestros pecados. Primeramente, nuestra identificación es hijos de Dios. Si es porque no vivimos este facto. Yo pienso que porque tenemos miedo. Miedo de muchas cosas. What is it that we fear? What is it that we're afraid of? Well, for myself, sometimes the fear is if I live up to it today, that means I have to do it again tomorrow. And es muy difícil para vivir una vida cada día con intención. We see it in everyday life. We see it at work. Once you can't be fired, you stop being intentional. We see it in relationships. Once you put a ring on the finger, once you say, yo creo, I do, the honeymoon period's over really quick. We stop trying. ¿Por qué tenemos problemas en nuestros matrimonios? ¿Por qué no tratamos? And when we stop trying with God, we allow Satan to attack us. And when we stop trying for God, we stop listening to God, and we start listening to the voice of sin and laziness. You know, Jesus said in today's gospel to Simon Peter, I will make you a fisher of men, put out into the deep. This is as deep as it gets, Western Oklahoma, my brothers and sisters. We are 3% Catholic, which means 1 in every 33 people in Western Oklahoma identifies as Catholic. But just because we identify as Catholic doesn't mean we practice our faith. You know, this last week, I went to El Patio, because me gusta una grande margarita, and I was there, and it's always fun, because I go in collar, and there was a guy sitting across. He said, I grew up Catholic. I said, if you grew up Catholic, you're still Catholic. Yeah, I know, Father. Well, if you know, ¿por qué no practicas su fe? Y la respuesta no fue una respuesta, no sé. Ok, entonces tenemos misa cada fin de semana a las 10:30, cada domingo, o 5 cada sábado, o 7 cada sábado en español, o en Seir cada 8 en la mañana cada domingo. ¿Te gusta entender? No. ¿Por qué? No sé. Y escuchamos esta razón demasiado. ¿Por qué no atiendes la iglesia? No sé. No tengo excusa, pero no me gusta. Ok. ¿Sabes que hay un día que you're going to die, right? ¿Sabes esto, sí? Sí. Ok. ¿Sabes que la fe es el único lado que conocemos para entrar al cielo, sí? Sí. Ok. ¿Por qué no practicas su fe? No sé. Ok. ¿Te gusta vivir eternamente en cielo? Oh, sí, Padre. ¿Por qué? Porque no me gusta la otra opción. Ok, por supuesto. Pero si no atiendes misa ahora, ¿por qué prefieres vivir eternamente en misa? Oh, no me gusta eternamente en misa. Esto es cielo. ¿En serio? Sí, porque cielo es eternamente en la presencia de Dios. Y si no gustamos aquí, en este mundo, tiempo con Dios, ¿por qué pensamos que gustamos eternamente en la presencia de Dios? No pensé sobre esto. Ok, entonces ahora, ¿te gusta atender misa este fin de semana? No. ¿Por qué? That's part of the struggle in our life and in our world is we don't understand that our actions have consequences. The consequence of our baptism is that we are called to live our faith. Y si no vivimos nuestra fe aquí, probablemente no podamos tener la oportunidad para vivir eternamente con Dios en cielo. ¿Por qué? Porque si no vivimos que creemos, es obvio que no creemos que hablamos. And yet the Lord tells us to be either hot or cold. Be not lukewarm, or I will spew you from my mouth. God offers us so many gifts in this life each and every day. Y esto es la razón por que atendemos misa, para dar gracias por todos de los dones en nuestras vidas, que veemos y que no vemos, que recibimos y que no recibimos. Es un don para nosotros, para atender misa. Pero muchas veces no pensamos esto. Solo es mi responsabilidad como católico. Sí, but there's a lot of other things in life that are responsibilities that we love to do. Why don't we love the Lord in attending Mass? Why don't we love the Lord in living out our faith? The Lord said, "Put out into the deep, and I will make you a fisher of men." I don't know how much deeper we can get than 1 in every 33. Pero mi esperanza es cuando necesito salir por otra iglesia, que hay más gente entre esa iglesia. That right now we are 1 in every 33 Catholic. My hope is at least 1 in every 32. Or 1 in every 31. Or be bold and say 1 in every 30. It's really not that much. But it starts with you and me and us here. If we don't practice our faith, those that go to Mass, no hay esperanza para la gente afuera de la iglesia para vivir su fe. And so how is the Lord calling you to live today? And what excuse do you have? Because the Lord is going to say the same thing to you that he said to Isaiah, that he said to Paul, that he said to Peter. No temas. Have faith y vivir la evangelio.